Hi, I'm Rachel Lundbaum, Assistant Professor of Management at the University of Minnesota Crookston. In this presentation, I'll be going over some of the concepts of marketing research and marketing planning to assist you with your business plan. So in this, we're going to talk about gathering data, such as various types of marketing research, how we find research on our industry, identifying our target market, competition, positioning, pricing, and distribution, and then we'll look at how to develop our startup marketing plan. So there are two types of marketing research that you need to be aware of. The first is primary and the second is secondary. When we look at collecting data, we should always see what type of secondary data is available. And so secondary data is information that's already been collected. So it's things like industry reports, census data, maybe data from trade organizations, anything that's already been gathered that you can use to assist you. And then primary data is new data collection for the purpose of answering a specific question. So you can use internal company data like sales reports, web or social media analytics, focus groups, surveys, interviews, information you've observed in your business. Um, so if you have any questions about finding any type of research or data, please feel free to contact me, and my info is at the end of this presentation. Right? It's also important to understand what is happening in your industry and what are the trends. So we can again find this through industry reports, which I believe you've gotten, and if not, I can help you find those. Again, those trade publications, through news articles, through networking groups, and just your own knowledge of the industry. Don't discount what you already know. That's really great information. So make sure that you understand what's happening. What are the trends? How can I take advantage of those trends? We call that exploiting opportunity. It's also important to understand who our target market is, or basically who is our ideal customer. So our target market is the people that are most likely to buy our products and services. And so we can look at geodemographics, such as where they live, age, income, gender, education. We might want to look at whether we're selling to businesses or to the end consumer, what type of lifestyle, um, what is their behaviors in terms of purchasing frequency, usage rate, loyalty rate, attitudes. So you can look at all these things. So for example, let's say you sell a fishing product. Well, I would probably want to look at people who fish as part of their lifestyle. There might be certain geographic locations that are more likely to use my specific type of fishing product. There might be certain genders or ages, and then we can also look at some of the behaviors. So this is one of the most important pieces of marketing that you need to be sure to address. All right, also have a good idea of who your competition is. I will see sometimes that people say, I don't have any competition. You always have somebody competition. If there's no product on the market like you at all, there's something that people are currently buying to satisfy whatever need or want that your product satisfies. So for example, I like this example of Applebee's. Their direct competitors are Olive Garden, Ground Red Lobster, other American-ish sit-down restaurants. But as a consumer who goes out to eat, maybe I'm strapped on time, so I might decide to go to an indirect competitor, such as um, McDonald's, Subway, Burger King. Or I may just choose to eat at home. So then grocery stores would be a substitute. So make sure that in your business plan you at least acknowledge whether you have any direct, indirect, or substitute products as competitors. And again, where can I find information about this? Well, you might already know it. Your industry reports. You can look at the annual reports of your competition, if they're publicly traded, that is. You can look at trade groups, news, observation, asking around. There's always options there. It's also important to understand how you are positioned in the minds of your consumers. And so when we talk about positioning, we're asking what sets you apart from your competitors? What does your product have that the competition doesn't have? So how are you different, better? Those are the questions you want to ask yourself. And this ultimately is your product's competitive advantage. So if you're not really sure how you want to position yourself, you might already know. You might already say, I'm superior because of X, Y, and Z, and this is how I'm going to position myself. And that's great. But if you don't, there's a great exercise you can do. It is called a positioning map. In this situation, we're looking at pain relievers and we're evaluating them on two components. So we're looking at effectiveness and whether or not they're gentle. And so what we're looking for here is where there's gaps. So nobody really wants something that's not effective. So it's normal that this would be an empty quadrant. We're pretty good here in this less semi-effective, less than gentle. Um, but there's a gap right here where we're looking at effective and gentle. And so if you had an aspirin that fit that gap, you would want to position yourself as that in the minds of consumers. All right, pricing. Pricing can be a tough one. We don't want to price it too high. We don't want to price it too low. We're looking for just the perfect price. So things we want to look at are positioning. How do our competitors are priced? What are our fixed and variable costs? From an accounting standpoint, we want to look at our fixed and variable costs and think, okay, what do I need to charge in order to cover my costs? Ultimately, our goal is to make profit, which is when our revenues are greater than our expenses. What are my customers willing to pay? Sometimes your customers are willing to pay more or less than you think they are. And so it's important to get feedback from your customers through focus group observations or surveys so you know if you're pricing it correctly. So if you have any questions about how your product is priced, let me know and I'd be happy to help. All right, distribution. I think this is always one of the most difficult parts of the marketing plan for entrepreneurs. And this is really looking at how are people going to get my product? Am I going to sell it in a retail store? Am I going to sell it online? Am I going to start a franchise? Am I going to use personal selling? Am I going to go to trade shows? So look at how products are traditionally sold in your industry and look at what's feasible for you. Retail might sound appealing, but it's really hard to get into retail stores. Online may seem easy, but what are the right online venues? I think this is always the hardest part for entrepreneurs, especially in the introductory stage of when they're first introducing their product or service. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to chat about this. All right, next we're going to look at our startup marketing plan. So let's first talk about our budget. So according to the US Small Business Administration, companies invest between 1 to 10% of their gross sales in advertising. And there's two ways we can set our budget. One is a top-down budgeting approach where we say here's what we can spend and then we figure out how we're going to spend it. And the other is saying here's my goals and then figuring out what marketing I need to do to achieve them, and then that will also ultimately determine my budget. Ideally, a bottom-up approach is preferred, but let's be realistic, sometimes we only have so many funds. All right, so in our startup marketing plan, you want to ask yourself, where or how does my target market get information on products and services that are similar to mine? So if I were in the market to buy this product or service, how would I find information about it? So you can do social media, websites, internet marketing, sales promotions, email marketing, TV, newspaper, magazines, radio, personal selling. I mean, the sky's the limit. Billboards, yard signs. I mean, there's flyers. There's all types of things you can do. So what you want to realize is think of yourself as a customer and think, how would I find myself? And then craft your marketing strategy based on that. What I've done in here is I've put in a chart that kind of shows what are the advantages and disadvantages of each, and I'll cover them real quickly. Obviously, TV is great, but it's pretty expensive. You can reach a lot of people, but obviously cost is the high one. Same with radio. It's a relatively lower cost, but it's still going to cost a little more than other things. Magazines have a long lead time. They might have more longevity and good visuals, but again, the number of people reading magazines is decreasing. Newspapers can be actually really effective for certain demographics. So, for example, if your customer base is maybe of retirement age, this might actually be a really great place. If you're in a really small town, it might actually work to do advertising in your small town local newspaper, and it could be relatively effective as well. Outdoor, you can do outdoor ads, like I said, yard signs. These can be really um, beneficial if you're geographically targeting. Direct mail, this can be great. You can actually buy mailing lists. The only problem is mail is expensive. And then again, digital is huge right now. I could do a whole presentation just on digital marketing. Have a website. Websites can be relatively inexpensive. Have a social media presence, but understand who what social media your customers use. If you're targeting high school, college individuals, you're probably going to use some of the trendier things like Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. If you're targeting individuals over 30, you're probably going to use Facebook. Um, so there's all kinds of different ways that you can do digital advertising. You can do ads on Google that are paid. They say they're sponsored, but they can be effective as well. And then also make sure that your website is optimized so that, meaning that if somebody searches for you on the internet, you're one of the top um, sites that comes up. And this alone can be an art and a science. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out for assistance. All right. And then figuring out how much your marketing is going to cost. This is just an example of a rate sheet. So if you reach out to the places where you're thinking of advertising, they should be able to give you an idea of what the cost might be. All right, and here's just a little visual that kind of shows idea of what it might cost. This is just very, 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 very general. All right. So with that, that's a really brief overview of marketing research and marketing planning. Again, I would love to help you if you have any questions. I am available to do phone calls, Zoom, Google Meets, whatever. So just reach out to me via email. It's the best way to reach me at rlundvoh@umn.edu. And I would be happy to set up a time to chat with you and answer any questions that you might have about the marketing of your business. Thanks and have a great day.